payments and that cash usage, which Satoshi talked about and which the Centi guys just talked about, is a very critical part of Bitcoin's journey. But Bitcoin has been too difficult to use for at least the everyday user for many, many years. So a lot of the effort in the Bitcoin SV ecosystem in order to gain this massive global adoption we want, a vision of 5, 6 billion users in the future of Bitcoin, we need to make payments better and easier, which is very possible with Bitcoin SV. To talk about this, we've got a panel of some of the leading thinkers in the space, one in studio with me here and 3 I see from remote locations. I'm going to ask everyone to introduce themselves and take a little bit of time to talk about their company and what their product does. So I'm going to start with who we have in studio right with me, which is Derrick Horton, who is the president of Anypay. Welcome, Derrick.
Hi, thank you, Jimmy. Everyone thinks we're crazy, even other Bitcoiners. We're in the stupid, impossible, can't be profitable market for retail payments. But Bitcoiners love to use Anypay because we make their dreams come true. Some people see Bitcoin and say, that's my money, I want to use that. Until recently, it really hasn't been possible to walk into a business and pay for your cup of coffee and your muffin with a swipe of your Handcash wallet or your Centi wallet or whatever you like to use. We make that possible by talking with business owners around the world, solving their problems, and allowing people to pay with Bitcoin and their favorite kind of money in real life. Might sound crazy, but that's the world I want to live in, and I will not stop until I can use Bitcoin to pay for everything in my life.
Thank you. That is a profound statement, and I am so excited to help see that journey come to fruition with companies like yours. Next, we're going to go to one of our remote speakers, who is Nick Jones, the CEO and co-founder of Zumo. Hi, Nick. Please introduce yourselves to our virtual audience and talk to us about what Zumo is doing.
Hi, Jimmy. Thanks for the intro. I think I've got some slides which your guys are showing. I'm not sure if they're up on. There we go. Great. Yes. Okay.
They'll be coming up momentarily from our London studio. Yes. Where are you today, by the way, Nick?
Great. I'm in Scotland. I'm about an hour and a half north of Edinburgh, just in the very southern tip of the Highlands. So yeah, I'm in the countryside, hiding out at the moment.
Oh. Fantastic. As we're waiting for your slides, why don't you just tell the audience generally about what Zumo is?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose I'll talk about the problem to begin with. So the problem we kind of set out to solve was, on a high level, to provide a faster, fairer, more secure global payments system, looking to improve the lives of billions of people suffering from the kind of legacy payments and financial infrastructure. It's interesting hearing the Centi guys chatting there. That's been our focus. So we established in 2018. We have a team here in Edinburgh with a dev team in Slovenia, which will be familiar to you guys, and also some people in London. Yes. I think that's my slides up, so we can probably go on to the next one. So yeah, at the core, yes. Zumo. Yes, yeah. I believe the two teams met last week in Ljubljana, which is pretty cool. Our team and your team met last week in Ljubljana, so yeah, very good. Yeah, so we built a non-custodial wallet and payments platform that makes money and crypto work seamlessly and safely together. That's kind of the MO for what we've done. So the mission that we're on, our view is that whilst crypto is growing quickly, there's over 97% of people out there who don't hold cryptocurrency. And actually, most of the people who can benefit the most from decentralized financial system don't own it. And yet the vast majority of products being built in the crypto space are aimed at the 3% of people who've already got it, who've already bought in. So really, we're on a mission to try and bring the benefits of blockchain and centralization to ordinary people everywhere. And if we pop onto the next slide. Yeah, so that's based around a lot of proprietary IP that we spent 2 years building, patented fully decentralized HD wallet, all private keys encrypted on the user device, and the idea that we can manage multiple blockchains from a simple interface. And the whole point around what we've decided to build with our SDK is a flexible underlying IP that can be deployed in a number of ways, which I'll show you on the next slide. So yeah, I guess our core use cases for Zumo. So as I'll show in a second, we have a consumer app and a business-facing product, but send funds internationally with no fees, store value, so store crypto in a very secure way without the need for cold storage, and certainly without the need for any kind of centralized storage. Exchange cryptocurrency and ordinary money, which you still need to use in the real world, in a very simple and safe environment, not in a complex trading type environment. Spend cryptocurrency like you would do in the real world with a debit card that we're just about to launch in the UK, and for businesses accept and make payments in cryptocurrency. So that's what our underlying technology allows us to do. And that's executed in a couple of different ways. So we have Zumo app, which is our consumer product, which is live in the UK at the moment. It's been live for the last few months in the UK and is going very well. Adoption is happening really well, and we're primarily having users where it's their first experience of getting into cryptocurrencies. They may be buying their first ever Bitcoin and really enjoying that environment. We have a merchant's payment solution to allow merchants to accept payments on and offline. And then we have a partner-driven solution really focused on emerging markets, which allows us to work with local teams who understand their individual markets better than we do. So yeah, that probably moves on to our newest protocol integration following Bitcoin and Ethereum. We've just finished the integration with Bitcoin SV last week, which is great, which is why our two teams have been meeting in Ljubljana. And really, amongst other things, the key reason for that in terms of our global vision over the next few months is to leverage the enterprise blockchain piece to be able to work with some projects that we're working on in emerging markets. We're partnering with the team at N-Chain and really looking to dramatically lower the cost of cross-border payments actually in Africa and in other middle and low-income countries. So we see Bitcoin SV as being a core partner in us being able to deliver that vision. And that hopefully gives you a flavor of what we're doing. I'm looking forward to the panel session.
Yeah, fantastic. And thank you so much for the Bitcoin SV integration and Zumo Kit. I hope developers and companies use it. And I'm looking forward to hear more about the developing country initiatives you are going to launch with the Bitcoin SV ledger in the future as a ledger. Now let's go to Tel Aviv, Israel, one of my favorite countries and cities, and talk to Daniel Lipshitz, who is the founder and CEO of GAP600. Daniel, why don't you explain for the audience what is GAP600 and what service you provide that helps better consumer payments, especially with Bitcoin SV?
Sure. Hey, Jimmy. So Bitcoin and cryptocurrency transactions have a period of time when they are first published until they're confirmed by being included within a block and becoming part of the blockchain, known as zero count. During this time, there's certain risks, and in certain use cases, best practice is to wait for block inclusion for recognizing the deposit or payment. So the result is a degradation of customer experience while waiting for the transaction to confirm. What GAP600 enables is payment processors and liquidity providers to bridge that gap of 600 minutes on average. We do this via a financially guaranteed API call based on our proprietary technology, which assesses the likelihood of the transaction being successful or not. We've been in production since 2016 and process around 600,000 transactions per month. And in total, we have processed a value of $4.8 billion since inception. Our clients are primarily payment processors, with a lot of their traffic being from the gaming industry, and liquidity providers to non-custodial wallets, so kind of in-wallet trading. One of our main or primary value add is that we take the risk on ourselves for failed transactions or for transactions not being included in the blockchain for any reason. Specifically to BSV, we view BSV as having the most compelling route to mass adoption. And that's what it's all about, mass adoption. And as such, we are extremely pro and positive about its developments. BSV is an extremely safe instant transaction environment. We currently support BSV and are open as to see how our service needs to adapt and grow as the ecosystem develops and builds out its services. That's pretty much what we're about.
Thank you for that explanation, Daniel. All right, great. Now let's go to Switzerland. I believe appearing from the Bitcoin Association headquarters office in Zug is Bernhard Müller, who is the general manager and chairman of a newly announced Bitcoin SV venture, Centi, who's trying to make payments easier for merchants and consumers alike. Tell us about Centi.
Yes, hi Jimmy. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'm Bernhard, and I also had some slides exactly. You can go to the next one. So we are all, about Bitcoin payments and about value add on top of Bitcoin payments. So our company is actually really new. It was founded in March this year. We started backend development in April. We closed the seed round in July with some very experienced investors, among them Swiss business professional Jürg Konzett and also Calvin Ayre. And we have basically successfully load tested our backend with a lot of transactions. And then we got the regulatory clearance in August. It's a very big step because you can imagine all sorts of ways you want to run the business, but in the end, it matters whether the regulatory body also approves you can run the business that way. So we're really happy that happened. And we had a series of announcements, and we will have some more announcements coming soon. Next slide, please. So what we want to do is we have basically 3 business lines we're developing. One is payments, which is basically our MVP. Then we have events and we have media. And I'm going to, as briefly as possible, talk a little bit about these different pillars. I can't go into full detail here, but basically what we do is we integrate with professional point of sale service providers and commercial acquirers to make the Bitcoin experience, payment experience, very seamless for consumer and merchant alike, and basically retaining all the advantages of peer-to-peer electronic cash while we do that. And in fact, we just had an announcement together with Handcash. It's going to be so simple that the cashier working in the store doesn't even need to know Bitcoin is accepted, and it will work even then. Next slide, please. So after that, we want to extend to events. So we're just going to briefly share the vision here. But in the events industry, you have a lot of value adds that we can provide. For example, you can do ticketing on the blockchain. You can have polls. You can do fast lanes for certain items. At least where we come from, it's still very much common that you first get in line at a cashier and then you buy a little coupon for your burger or whatever you're having, and then you get in the next line in front of the grill. We want to ease all that with in-app purchases, with automation integrations, and we're actually in talks with some very big event providers to make that happen. The next slide, please. Then Bitcoin payments also enable micropayments, which is very, very powerful. And personally, I'm really not fond at all of these pop-ups that tell me you have to register to read the newspaper. I should turn off my ad blocker and all this. How cool would it be if those could just be clicked away or paid away, basically? While an MVP might look like that, you just pay to remove the paywall. In the future, it might actually extend to having your own library of things you've already purchased and being able to access them again through sort of authorizing. So the main takeaway should really be we want to make it super simple for merchants to integrate Bitcoin payments. We take away all these hassles they used to have. Accountants would get mad. They would have questionable security, write down some words, download some apps, instruct personnel how it works, how to keep the device charged and all these things. We get rid of all that and basically ensure that a Bitcoin payment has at least the same convenience, if not better, than any other electronic payments today. And from there on, we're going to go and develop all the value-add features. Next slide, please. Yeah, I'm really sorry this went to dark mode. This wasn't supposed to happen. So basically, after these three pillars, we foresee a lot more integrations. And basically, just like what we heard with augmented reality before, this is also going very much into this direction. And I just want to say we're all about cooperation and integration with great partners. So if you have any sort of idea for your business, how you could profit from a more multilateral payment experience and much less this sort of all payment, you just pay and that's it, we're happy to help, we're happy to talk, and we can do a lot of automation integration. Next slide, please. Yeah, so please contact us if you're interested to collaborate, if you want to hear more. Obviously, I can't, in this very quick intro, explain everything, how we do things, the legal setup and everything, but I'm more than happy to explain to anyone that has further interests. Thank you, everyone.
Fantastic. Thank you, Bernhard. So now let me ask some questions. So I'll ask all of you to, maybe render an opinion about this. Bitcoin's been around for over a decade, but honestly, people don't use it very much to pay for anything in daily life, right? Either even online or in brick and mortar stores. Why do you think that is, Derrick, and what do you think needs to be done by companies like yours to change that?
Well, I'd rather flip that question on its head and point out that there are people who are using Bitcoin for payments today. And why is that? Why do those people choose to use Bitcoin when they do today? There are people who are using it right now to buy their haircut or their coffee or even more serious things like a car. And why do they do that?
Yeah, why do you think they do that?
I think they do that, well, I can tell you from our users, the people who talk to us, they are skeptical of the Federal Reserve and they want an alternative. And it's a little like hippies back in the day who were viewed as weird because they wanted organic food and they saw this better way. And it was tough to get. You couldn't get organic food from the grocery store or at a restaurant and you were asking for it. It was weird and different, but these hippies knew if I work hard, I can get the organic food that I want. I can get the stuff that I want. And these people who want to use Bitcoin, they're doing the harder work to find the stores and find the places that want to accept Bitcoin, and that's sort of where we're at. That's what it's like. Right. So that's why people use it today.
Right, which is true, but it confines it to a particular population and a fairly limited set of merchants, right, that are willing to accept Bitcoin for payment. So I'm curious to some of the remote panelists, from your countries and experience, what do you think needs to be done to get more people and more merchants participating in Bitcoin payments? Nick, what do you think?
Thanks, Jimmy. I think from our point of view, you would probably tell from the fact that we're launching a debit card in the UK to allow people to quickly convert from Bitcoin into local fiat and pay, that we believe that you need to give users and businesses as many kind of ramps as possible at the moment. So we feel that that is a useful mechanism to allow users to pay in their normal way and to very quickly convert out of Bitcoin and into local fiat to make a payment. At the same time, we can also reverse that process, and we're very keen to allow a business to accept a payment in Bitcoin, but reverse, to not actually have to handle the Bitcoin. And there's obvious reasons for that. Is that it's fine for SMEs, but most larger size enterprises are not prepared to accept the price volatility and risk associated with that. They're running on small margins, especially in retail. So for them, they want to finally accept a payment in fiat. So for us, we can offer a merchant the visual ability to accept a payment in crypto, so a user can make that payment, and we'll do a really quick conversion on the back end at a spot rate, so that they only have to handle fiat. And I think that at the moment, that's probably the best solution. You know, things will change if attitudes towards stable coins, CBDCs move on. But at the moment, I think it's about having that fluidity and de-risking from a governance point of view. A very large retailer ultimately is not going to take on the price risk at the moment of handling that. That will change over time. So I think at the moment it's about creating this seamless link between the two worlds.
Daniel, how much do you think networks' transaction speed and cost of fees is important in driving adoption of Bitcoin payments?
Well, I would say it's a must. I don't even think it's even a question. It just merely gets you to the table. It's very important to keep in mind, what money is. Money is a means of exchange. It's a tool to a means to an end. If one money tool is more useful to you than another, you'll start using it. Bitcoin is a higher quality of cash than fiat, but it hasn't reached significant network effect and stability in order to become part of our daily lives. Some of the initial benefits of Bitcoin as being fast and global have been wasted and lost to developments in fiat applications in direct response to Bitcoin. I mean, here in Israel, there's a very popular banking app called Bit. Now you can just imagine where they got the name from. So far no cryptocurrency has reached mass adoption as money, and there is some adoption in speculation, and there are some limited use cases in adoption. Nothing on a mass level as of yet. The industry where we've seen significant adoption is in the gaming industry, and that's primarily because payments in that whole industry is in short a nightmare. Both for depositors, gaming players, but it's also for the operators to pay their service providers. It is just so much easier for them to work in crypto and work in Bitcoin. So what I would say, the question of Bitcoin and Bitcoin SV specifically becoming payments is a much larger question of Bitcoin SV adoption. And where I think we're going to get there is focusing on our sustainable strategic advantages Bitcoin SV has, which is a non-custodial micropayments aspects of services. And the most compelling route to adoption, which is of our interest here. We're not interested in taking a small piece of the pie, which cryptocurrency has at the moment. We're interested in really moving the needle and making Bitcoin a significant part of our economic existence. And by getting BSV used, showing utility, and a range of services building and using BSV, people will start to become more comfortable, will start getting BSV, will start earning BSV, and will start using it. Something that I like to think of is, if you think of email, if by some way we could use the back end of email as money, it wouldn't be very difficult to get people to start using it because we're so used to it and so comfortable with it. And that's why, to me, the whole process of blockchain services, global ledger, aspects which are completely outside of necessarily economic and payments is actually the long-term route to Bitcoin becoming part of our global economic lives and in payments.
Bernhard, Derrick mentioned that there are people who pay for goods and services with Bitcoin. What do you think our ecosystem and companies like yours in particular can do to create more incentives for both merchants to accept Bitcoin as a payment and for consumers to actually pay with Bitcoin? What can we do to help this along?
Sure. The merchant incentives are at least easy to describe. You just shouldn't be any more hassle or any worse in regarding to fee or risk than any other payment scheme. Merchants, we Bitcoiners, we like to think that, maybe at some point people will see all the benefits. But in the end, merchants and consumers alike, they don't really care. They care about speed, simplicity, security, and features. That's what they care about. So in order to have more adoption, we need to actually talk to the consumer and ask them, what they want and what it would take for them to, let's say, try a new wallet or try something new in payments. And you need to provide features that nobody else can. So to be honest, our minimal viable product is going to be very much geared to the person who already has Bitcoin. But this is just our MVP. It will show what's possible and how it can be seamlessly integrated into currently existing point-of-sale service infrastructure. But from there on, we can take it to really provide value add, to really provide something that no other payment system can. I give you one small example maybe. You have all these wallets from all these different supermarkets to collect bonus points, to collect vouchers and coupons. How about one wallet could actually do all this? How about we could have businesses interact? I go to the hairdresser here, and when I pay, I actually get sent a 20% discount for the nail salon next door. Maybe I won't use it, but that's the sort of interactions we can create. Or let's say in the events business, we carefully listen to the people who actually organize these events. What are their problems in payments? Which sort of problems would they like to have solved? And there are problems they haven't solved yet. And then, go there and solve them. That's our approach.
Derrick, do you think there are any major industry or business or consumer behavior hurdles that can still be overcome to get more people paying with Bitcoin beyond the ones you currently have?
Yeah, so the one that Dan touched on, which I think is perfect, is that Bitcoin and money in general is a medium of exchange. And so, yeah, it's important that transaction fees are low and that it's fast. But the thing that I hear from merchants is, well, can I buy milk with this so that I can make milkshakes? Can I pay my suppliers?
Suppliers, yeah.
That is what it's about. And if it's it's a network. So if it's going to grow and be a medium of exchange, it has to be exchangeable for things, not just for other fiat, because then it's just a payment method. It's not much better than a credit card. But if you can actually exchange it for real goods and services in the economy, well, then we're really doing something. Then you can see the network start to grow, because in towns like Keene, New Hampshire is a great example. There's a hair salon, and then next to it a frozen yogurt place, and then next to that a convenience store, and all three of them in a row take Bitcoin. And then once they hear, oh, I can just spend it next door, once they know they can actually use Bitcoin to buy real things in their life that makes it better, those are the hurdles that I think need to be overcome.
Yeah, but I think you make an excellent point, which is merchants want to be able to use the currency they receive across their supply chain.
They want to use it.
Right.
Yeah, why do I take
providers.
this stuff? I can take dollars all day, but I want to use Bitcoin.
Yeah. So Nick, from your business and industry experience, are there particular hurdles at any of these levels, business, industry, consumer, that you think we as an ecosystem need to help overcome to spur more usage?
Sure. I mean, I think we've touched on most of them, and definitely the reason why we've gone with BSV is because we think we can. Well, we're very confident we can address the latency and cost of transaction issues that we know there is with the Bitcoin blockchain, which kind of prevent that being used as money. So we're really excited about that, and working with Nchain on tokenization projects around creating particularly cross-border payments for B2B and B2C, but to really take friction out of cross-border payments. There's some pretty horrendous numbers if you look at places in the developing world in terms of the cost of transaction, anything up to about 10% for businesses to sell cross-border, 10% of sale value. So we know we can address some of these things, through blockchain, through providing a BSV-based payments platform there. So I think for me, it's about really tapping into the true underlying benefit here. I think that for businesses, at the moment there's an education piece, okay? Because most people in the street, if you say crypto, they'll think Bitcoin, the original Bitcoin, and they'll think of Bitcoin as a highly speculative investment. That's the reality that we all have to overcome as an industry. Yeah. So the more we talk about benefits, the more we talk about use cases, and the more we deliver on those use cases, so being able to deliver across very cheap cross-border, highly secure, super fast, hyper-efficient payments, rather than just talk about it, then the more likely, the more traction we get as an industry, and the more we're able to move people through. So I think we're a comparatively short amount of time into a technology adoption curve, and one which is fairly complex, or has been made to appear more complex than it has, and challenges all the various challenges that we know along the way. But I feel like there's a corner being turned, partly because of what's happened this year globally in terms of consumer views around this kind of parallel financial system. And I think there is a lot of openness to something fairer from a cost and trade point of view. So I think we should be focusing on these really rock solid use cases where we can significantly improve on 10% for a business in Africa selling to another business in Africa as a cost of sale. And I think if we do that, that would get us a long way down the road.
Okay, Daniel, one complaint I hear often is about the volatility of Bitcoin's price. So if someone wants to potentially receive Bitcoin as payment for goods or services, they'll ask, well, how do I deal with the volatility? It scares me off. How would you answer that question, and what solutions do you think our industry needs to offer to merchants for that?
Well, I think that's definitely an issue if you're accepting BSV-based payments. What I would say in this space is that sorry, there was just some audio that knocked me there. Specifically, what's critical is instant deposits. So your payment, I don't think merchants should care about this. Your payment processor should enable instant deposits, and if you want, should enable instant cashing out. This is very doable, very easy. There are significant liquidity providers. There are significant services. So that should not be a hindrance in accepting payments. I think in the payment space, we really are quite a way down the route in the cryptocurrency and Bitcoin space. The solutions haven't been, some of them have been compelling, and there was a significant time, even in the beginning, when BTC was functioning normal, that payments were cheap and fast. I think the missing point then was actually the significant added value that's required for people to change their behavior. People don't really care how they pay, and I don't think merchants significantly care how they accept money. There's definitely a significant value add, as Derrick mentioned, to having Bitcoin, to spending Bitcoin, a non-inflationary, non-government, independent form of cash, form of money. But that doesn't encourage our mass adoption to actually jump across. So we need to be offering significant added value for them to use payments, if we're just going to go the payment route. And that's why I think, I didn't always believe this, but I view blockchain services and stable coins as part of that, and global ledger. I view that whole aspect to Bitcoin, and which is only capable on BSV, as being an interlinking route to how we bring payments to mass adoption. Because if you already have it, if you're already comfortable with it, if you're using apps that are using it, you're more easier to jump and say, hey, well, this form of money is more hard, it's more stable, it's not dependent on who wins the election, it's not, so you'll make the jump then. But we need to, the route of enabling adoption via blockchain services, I think, is how we get payments. I don't think personally there aren't building blocks today in existence that you can put together and make a great payment experience. I mean, the guys are already doing it. Derrick's doing it. Centi's doing it. And there's other services that are launching that are going to do it. So I think it's more an adoption question. How do we really get Bitcoin to be part of our global world?
Yeah. And Bernhard, really quickly, one of the issues you're trying to solve at your company is the need for merchants to deal with accounting and tax reporting of digital currency when they have to report in fiat currency, which is a headache. All right. Can you give us any insight on to how your company's approaching that, or what you think can be done to make that part easier for merchants and get them using Bitcoin?
Yes, while we heard before that it would be great to have sort of a circular economy and be able to pay suppliers as well in Bitcoin, I don't see that happening very soon. And this is why we focused on, okay, let's do something where the merchant is very familiar with the solution already. And he's already very familiar with the solution where he gets his money end of the week or end of the month from his acquirer that, you know, settles him for the various payment schemes. And so that's exactly how we do it. In the end, on the merchant side, you will get, you know, you'll have a dashboard end of the week. You know exactly how much you made with which payment, how much it cost you, and so on and so forth, seamlessly integrated. So basically, the merchant himself, while accepting Bitcoin, doesn't ever really take them on his balance sheet. I would have to go into more detail about our compliance structure and about the sort of inner business logic of how this works. But yes, the merchant does not have to deal with Bitcoin in the end. He will get money on the bank account he can use to pay suppliers, pay salaries, and basically just keep operating the way he always operated.
Okay, I'll ask everyone one last question, and we'll start with Derrick, and I think you want to say something about some of the comments, but as I'll ask you this question, and you can talk about what you want to talk about, which is, what's the next big thing your company is going to do to help promote consumer payments with Bitcoin?
Okay, great. Well, this ties in nicely. So I'll answer your last question first, and then go back to that last one. Anypay makes it possible for our merchants to, or anyone, to buy gift cards to premium brands. So you've got Bitcoin, you just took $5 in for a cup of coffee that you sold at your cafe. You can turn that into $5 at CVS or wherever. You sell a $600 painting, you can turn that into American Airlines flight tickets. So you can buy cards with Bitcoin SV today using Anypay. That's one way that we make it easier for merchants. But about adoption, we're all payment processors, or we're all working on adoption, but I take a different view. It's about serving Bitcoiners. It's not about serving the outside world. I think the way we get adoption is through the Bitcoiners, because if I can make the experience delightful for people who love and want to use Bitcoin, the adoption doesn't happen there. It happens in Twitch and Palping and all these little services that people want to use Bitcoin for, because there's this philosophy that money emerges in a market because it's useful for things. It's not that I can convince, we're jumping the ship by saying, well, let's go right to merchant services. Some people are ready for that now, and I am, you know, I think we all are, but some people are not, and the adoption happens with the goods and services that people want to use Bitcoin for, and then using it, it emerges as money later.
Okay, fantastic. Nick, so tell us about, if you can, what your thoughts are on emerging markets and how Zumo is going to be able to help using Bitcoin SV.
Sure. I have to be a little bit careful what I'm talking about here, but our vision for that is to, our vision really, it was interesting hearing Daniel talking about stable coins, you know, tokenized asset. Our vision here for, you know, we're very interested in, and again, this ecosystem thing about how we can allow businesses to make cross-border payments, and then how those businesses can use the gains that they make, the efficiencies and the cost savings they gain in cross-border payments to pay their employees, and for their employees to then have digital money without banks, as we talked about earlier, to exist in those markets where local currency is significantly less stable and significantly more of a problem than in more developed countries, where there is a really strong use case for store of value outside of banks, as you know, as we heard earlier. So we're working on a tokenization project where we can have a token which powers cross-border payments, which we're able to deliver extremely cost-effectively, and for that to translate into with the team at nChain using the BSV protocol, and then to allow to have a broader project to allow businesses to pay their employees in that token, for their employees to store value in a much more stable way and secure way than in local currency or in hard cash, physical cash, which is currently a huge problem in those markets at the moment. So we're super excited about that. We think there's enormous social impact. We think you get that ecosystem effect that we were mentioning earlier, where it becomes a natural circular effect. So yeah, it's a huge project. It's going to take a long time to deliver, but we believe that that if we can leverage the advantages of a very quick and inexpensive to use ledger with BSV and a stable payments token on that, which you can move out into both fiat and into other cryptos, we've got something which is pretty game changing in emerging markets.
Okay, very quickly, since we're out of time, Daniel, other than gaming, what's your other big industry for potential use of GAP600 services?
So we primarily service payment processors. So the payment processors generally are in touch in the gaming space, and also liquidity providers which serve as wallets. And that's for inter-cryptocurrency trading. And then obviously exchanges who want to offer superior customer experience for instant deposits. So there's really no reason that any cryptocurrency...
Thank you, Daniel. Bernhard, last point here. What's your vision for Bitcoin in Switzerland and the world?
Well, my vision is that it just works. People don't always need to know they're actually using it, and they don't always need to care, because it's a very, very efficient payment system. It works for micropayments, it works for metadata, it works for added value, and we want to unlock all this and show the Swiss people and beyond, of course, what Bitcoin can do without even needing necessarily to have them know at first what technology we're building on.
All right, I want to thank the panel, Derrick here in studio, as well as Nick, Daniel, and Bernhard for joining us remotely from across the world connected. And thanks very much, and we hope you all participate in the experience to make Bitcoin better for payments for consumers and merchants alike.